Welcome back everybody to episode 6, building our app with ChatGPT and Flutter. When we left off in episode 5, we just finished getting our first graphics into our app. So this episode will be dedicated to combining those graphics with the functionality of our app to bring them together to our finished product. So our next step is to take those graphics and start building our player and dice cells in the code. We're going to start with the graphics that we finished in the last episode and use them as a template for our dice cell, which will have a different background image and a slightly different scale, but will be essentially the same. To get a different appearance for the dice cell, I just modified the image from the original graphics, and I'll do the same to update the image for our player cell. Next, I just want to add a layer of text to display the player name. So we've laid out our graphics and the buttons work. Sort of. So in the code, the buttons work to change the values of things like the life count and the dice type. But on the display, those aren't updating in real time. So what we need to do is implement a function called setState that will update the interface anytime it's called in the code. And we have to use it in the code for each of the buttons. Once we implement setState into all of our buttons, now our graphics will update in real time. But there's one more problem here with the plus and minus buttons. It looks like the plus button is layered on top of our minus button, so it's the only one that's getting clicked. To fix this, we'll have to play around with a series of columns and rows to fix the layout so that they aren't overlapping each other in the GUI. Alright, so we'll do the same for our dice cell, and then we're actually ready to start using a similar set of columns and rows to build out our game layout. So it turns out the simplest way to build out the functionality that we want for our app is to make a separate layout for every player count. And then when we start the game from the game setup menu, the layout that coincides with the number of players set up for the game will be built. With our layouts all built out, now it's time to add some background images. To do this, we'll use a Flutter built-in called box decoration. With the background images in place, now we'll just take some time to fine-tune fonts and colors to get the final product that we're looking for. To do this, we're adding some custom colors and some custom fonts into our project. And once we get everything just the way we want it, the only thing we have left is to build the functionality to roll our dice when we want to use it in the game. The way that we want to build the dice functionality is to be able to press and hold the dice on the screen and have it roll a random number between 1 and whatever the dice type is. ChatGPT tells us that we can use something called the gesture detector, which is another Flutter built-in. This will detect when we've pressed and held something on the screen for a certain amount of time, and then it will perform the action that we want. So what we'll do is add the gesture detector to the text inside of our dice cell, and then have it trigger a pop-up that displays whatever the dice roll is. Alright, so we're able to get the dice roll functionality to work, and there was one more thing that I thought would be really cool to build in, and that's the ability to shake the device to get the dice to roll as well as pressing and holding it on the screen. The way that this would work in the code gets a little bit more complex. We have to use something called a listener, which is basically one piece of the code that listens for an event from another piece. And this is how we would listen for the phone to get shaken in the code, and then respond to it by rolling the dice. Alright, so that was a lot of work, and we ended up with some code that should function, but the shake function in our emulator doesn't seem to be triggering it. This could be a problem with the emulator, or something wrong with the code that we just can't troubleshoot right now. But for now, we're not going to worry about that. We have a functioning dice roll with the press and hold function that we built, and our app works from end to end. So overall, I'm really happy with the way that our app has come together, both visually and with its functionality. In the next episode, we're going to add a login screen so our users can create accounts and log into the app. And after that, it's time to publish our app. But for now, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you'd like to be notified for the login screen episode that's coming, please consider subscribing. And if there's something that I haven't covered in this that you'd like to see more of, please leave me a comment down below. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon.